Everybody, welcome to today's episode of Nuts About Thrust. I'm John. We're here with Zach, and we have a special guest, Suresh from Jets MRO, and also as a representative of NBAA. And if you would, just introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about your background. And
I'm Suresh and founder CEO of Jets MRO. Came to Thrust Flight today to talk about a lot of the NBAA scholarships that are available for mechanics. So it's pretty exciting. I'm on the maintenance committee, and we're trying to share the immense amount of options for free money to go get all kinds of trainings, OEM trainings, and I think it's an underutilized resource. So I wanted to share, because everyone likes free money and travel and everything included, ways that A&P students can get into business aviation. Business aviation as a whole has a huge demand for more mechanics, so just trying to share the need and excitement around business jet aviation specifically.
okay,
And then my background and why I'm in aviation is I don't think I had a choice. It's a family decision for me. Dad was a Concorde mechanic. He had a Part 145 repair station in Miami where I grew up. And then I worked with my brother Raj around the corner here, actually at AQRD, helping grow an engineering repair station firm. Our family has two beach starships, so crazy about aviation.
awesome.
I went on the operator side of aviation for about a year, and that's where I came up with the idea. I got so mad at MROs and said, you know what, we can focus on mechanic retention. The labor shortage has been talked about. You guys are helping fix that. But now I go, well, why are there 40 to 50% turnover rates in the mechanic population? How do I fix that? Trying to replace every single person that leaves is another issue along with the shortage. So I started Jets MRO down at Dallas Executive Airport, brand new 40,000 square foot maintenance hangar, focusing on Challenger, Citation, and Learjet. So we specialized. Our big thing is we work every plane 7 days a week. On-time performance is huge. And that's because our mechanic retention is extremely, high. We recruit really well. We want to retain our mechanics, so that's our main ethos and focus.
So what are some of the programs that kind of makes me think? What are some of the things you do that you think help the most with retention?
We ask the question. So a lot of leaders assume, hey, all this jumping around must be with pay, or they think they can read people's minds. I don't have the innovative answer, so I just asked. We surveyed, I used data, and I went and go, why are people in the A&P world jumping around so much? And the answer wasn't compensation in the top four. It was actually work-life balance, culture, engaged leadership, and benefits. And so things we do objectively are we have free benefits for all our full-time employees. We have no forced overtime or on-call. So when they go home, they can go home. If they want to work because we have extra work, they can work, but it's not forced. And with the labor shortage, we found that there's so much forced overtime, it's killing work-life balance, and some of the mechanics just want to go home.
Yeah.
And so, engaged leadership, that obviously starts with me, is always making sure we have all these feedback loops, because what I think is important to mechanics this year could change next year, and my team's different than the next team. So we have all these feedback mechanisms, anonymous surveys, or nothing earth-shattering. We just really double down on getting the feedback. If someone does fire us, so we call it voluntary turnover, we want to get feedback on why we got fired as a company. And so I think that's what makes us different. That's how we're trying to address the problems. And then very competitive and transparent pay.
And may I follow up a little bit on that? Again, for the listeners and viewers, this is Zach. What challenges come up when you try to meet with people's feedback? For example, if you're trying to help them work on their work-life balance, what stops another company from doing something similar?
It doesn't. So we share everything. If you go to my LinkedIn, we share our pay scale. We share ideas. None of this stuff, in my opinion, is innovative proprietary information. It's just our mechanics deserve to be treated better, and turnover shouldn't be that high. It doesn't help me that other MROs are turning over. I'd rather help them all. And so we share a lot of our stuff nationally, whether it's at conferences and how we do things. My hope is people take some of that and implement it into their own business to get better. I think high tide raises all boats. And so it's not something we're keeping close to the vest. It's so bad we're not even at par, that let's fix this gap first, lower the turnover in our industry, and take a step in the right direction as an industry. So it's more self-serving than just my business.
Yeah, I mean, we run into that, and we talk lots on this podcast and all over about the shortage that we have with mechanics, right? We know that is a huge thing, and then I think you guys are going kind of a step beyond that. Is like, okay, so we know it's gonna be so hard to replace this person if we leave. We need to put things in place to make sure that we retain talent. And then you think about all the training that you have into that person, all the, learning your systems and, working on the types of jets that you guys maintain, like that skill set's it's very hard to replace. And it's not like you could hire somebody tomorrow.
To zoom out a little bit, so we can, ask you a bit more about Jets MRO. What's a good high level for anyone who's listening and is just interested in aviation maintenance, or maybe they're a student at the moment, or maybe they're just beginning their career? Can you kind of give us a good rundown on what you guys do overall, and just for anyone's listening?
Heavy schedule and maintenance. One of the things we learned from year 1 to year 2, because we're only in our second year of life as a business, is we focus on Challenger 300 and 600 series jets, Lear jets, and Citation jets. So we specialize. I think it's really important for MROs to specialize in certain airframes, especially in the business jet world. There's not the aircraft aren't interchangeable, and so that's what we found quick. Let's build teams that know these products really well, and we do heavy scheduled maintenance to line maintenance to AOG. But most of our business is scheduled maintenance on these aircraft. So we have gear coming out, engine changes, all the major stuff happening in our hangars. We also acquired a small component repair station in South Florida that fixes piece parts, subcomponents, if they need welding, metal spray, fabrication. We have engineering integrated with our business. So we create a lot of alternate solutions as well for a lot of these components in aircraft.
Awesome. Something that I think would be really valuable for the people that are listening, especially our students or just customer base. What are you looking for when you're interviewing, a mechanic? So how does that process? We get a lot of questions from our students, like, what's it going to look like when I go have this job interview at Jets MRO? If you could talk to us about, what they need to do to be prepared and ready for, a day in the life at Jets MRO, and really to get through that interview process so they can get a great job with somebody like you.
I think a weakness in aviation, like the technical side of it, is people aren't willing to say, I don't know. And they try to act like they know the answer or will shoot out an answer. I would love to hear people say, I don't know more, or I've never been asked that question, or just be vulnerable, because that tells me they're going to be good culture fits and good learning. I think in aviation, people are too technically strong in trying to figure it out or say they know. And I don't hear the words, I don't know, like at all, enough at all. And so I try to say it. I say it every day because I can't know everything about everything. And I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. So I think during their interview process, especially if they're younger technicians, is don't try to act like you can do and know everything about an aircraft. It's actually good to be vulnerable. And then going through the process, how are they going to be like what we do at Jets MRO is one of our values is culture over experience. So if I get a 30-year person who knows an airframe really well, I'm still valuing how they play with the team and fit in over their 30 years of experience, which can be very offensive. And it's been kind of controversial to people who have experience because they earned it, and it's very rare to have the experience. But it doesn't help me if I get one superstar who affects 4 people negatively and makes them perform less or makes them not want to be in the team environment.
Right.
So we really focus on culture fit. You don't have to want to conquer the world and grow into management, but we just say, can they come have fun? Will they enjoy it here? Because as much as we're interviewing them, they should be interviewing us, and we want to make sure we're a good fit for them. So that's what we're trying to understand. We're not trying to just ask questions to say, what can you do for Jets MRO? It's what can Jets MRO do for you? Will you be happy here long term? So we ask a lot of questions, value screenings, different types of things to, hiring for me is always, I call it guessing, and firing is knowing. So we try to hire slow, fire fast, and we just try to increase our odds of that hire being successful by trying some different things to see if there'll be a team fit. In our young age of a business, we've actually fired a good chunk of folks as they're great at experience, bad for the team, and we won't hesitate. So I think that's what makes us a little different. But that's what I would focus on, especially if they're new mechanics, is don't try to oversell yourself. It's okay to say, I don't know, and try to see how you'll be a culture fit to grow with the business, not just, what's my next job.
What does the training process look like for, if you were to hire someone that graduated from our program, what sort of training, like on the job training, are you going to give them and put them through to make sure that they are set up to be successful?
So I have 2 answers for that. One is I know what I want it to be, and I know what it is now in our young age. Like right now, we don't hire new AMPs. We're too small.
Okay.
About 20, 21 mechanics. I want to have an apprenticeship program with really structured training by the time we get to about 50 mechanics. But we're still young. I think every mechanic should have a big brother, big sister, a mentor.
Yeah.
And I want a program like that. That's what I want. We don't have it now. So I would tell people we are training is a weakness that we're working on as a newer business. We tend to hire more experienced folks that know our airframes because we're a young, quickly growing business. But hopefully, as we settle out, we'll have a formal training program that they'll be able to be successful in. So I know what I want it to look like, but it's not there yet.
So do you think that those will be like fresh A&P graduates that you put into a formal training program, or
I think
will
anyone
be
we can
people
plug
off the
in.
street? Okay.
I think we can plug anyone into those programs if they have. Again, we can look at the culture fit. They want to be in our space.
Yeah.
Maybe don't have a lot of years of experience. We can plug them in and make sure they have a good structure, or a mentor is what I'm big on, to be successful, someone to really lean on formally.
Yeah, we do that like thrust flight and the maintenance department, the people maintaining the flight school airplanes. There's about 6 of my graduates over there now, and they all have, there's 2 of them assigned to one kind of, lead A&P, but they are all A&Ps. But obviously, just because you have a license doesn't mean you can walk onto a floor and start, and do anything really.
Sure.
And so we could even pivot that question to just from your experience and professional opinion, someone who is a new A&P and is going through the interview process. What do you think they could look out for to help them be a better fit for your general application process?
I still think the culture fit. I think MROs, OEMs, all the businesses are learning that retention is important. And I don't think we started this trend. I just think it's something we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I think how are they aligned with the values? We get the practical stuff. You have an A&P license, you can work this airframe. Great. That's the starting point. Now it's how do you bring value to the business? And that, I think a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, what do you mean I just show up and work on a plane? I'm like, it's more than that. You interact with how many different people throughout a business and impact the team. And if you grow into a lead position, you're impacting so many other people and their decision to stay or leave. So your coworkers and people that report to you, depending on what position you are, and if you're a new technician at any of these companies, you have a bunch of peers. You are affecting their happiness at that job. So I would say think about it from the values alignment with the company and the growth alignment of how you add value and how you define that. Not just I can show up and clock in on an airplane. It's more than that.
Yeah, and with a business like yours, they're going to be dealing with, not necessarily an owner, but the director of maintenance for that particular airplane is probably going to be around. So they are the customer. They're who you're
our customer.
They're the ones paying the bills.
I may get them to the office, but I promise you, they spend more time learning who our team is than they do caring about what I have to say. Yeah. I think they know I'm not doing the work on the aircraft, so they're trying to meet with who is the team at Jets MRO. So I would argue that they are customer facing, all our mechanics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think it takes a bit of understanding of the industry to be able to think about how am I going to add value to this company?
It does. So you got to do your research, right? If you're going to a company, show them you did the research. Mm-hmm. Ask the obvious questions. And I laugh because some people be like, oh, I love your bio. Your dad was a Concorde mechanic. I'm like, yeah, it's the first thing in my bio on the website. But good, you looked. Mm-hmm. Like you at least looked. And, because we asked them, why'd you get into aviation? And so I think they just need to do their research. It's so easy right now with all the tools out there to learn about a company, learn where they came from. And then you should know who you're interviewing with. If you get a calendar invite for interview, look their name up on LinkedIn, little secret. Look up what school they went to. Like, just do your research.
Yeah, like we know that Suresh worked at JSX, and it was a relatively shortish period of time. I know some mechanics that worked at JSX. They all loved when he was there, and we're sad to see him go. So we're super excited to have him on.
See, I don't know that. That could have gone one of either way.
But I know that all these guys did that same thing, right? So when we talk to students about when they're getting prepared, like there's Google, like just look up
AI tools. Give me a background on this person and this role. How should I be best prepared to interview with them?
Yeah.
What happens if you interview with someone from HR versus a DOM? Like, there's so many tools to prep you for. I mean, I've talked to like AI agents to prep me for customer meetings. I go, act like a person who doesn't want to change your maintenance provider with this background. Here's a LinkedIn profile. And it took me 10 minutes to just have some dialogue with my phone to be better prepared for a meeting.
I do that on my commute to work.
Yeah.
Like literally there's, it has the talk function and you can just.
So I think the tools to get ready are they're there.
Yeah. So for the NBAA, this is a question for maybe both you guys. If I'm someone who just still is doing my research now on the industry, what would you tell me the NBAA is and what your involvement has been so far?
So NBAA is National Business Aviation Association. So it's the biggest organization that promotes business aviation, and I'm on the maintenance committee for it. So I want to help promote mechanics, give them resources, promote business aviation, because the business aviation world is booming. The last 10 years, a lot of people have taken these aircraft and are using them just like airlines, and it is massively underserved. So there's massive opportunities, but it's insane how many fleets and charter companies there are now, corporate flight departments, and everyone's flying these aircraft, and there's not enough new aircraft coming to meet the demand. So now there's older aircraft flying more hours. So from the maintenance point of view, is just job security. If I've ever seen it, there's so much demand building and not enough capacity even close to coming to market in the next 10 years. So we want to do what we can to promote maintenance scholarships, resources, opportunities for folks to get into business aviation, and maybe have some of those barriers or financial restrictions removed for them and help out where we can.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I actually heard the same thing. I was talking to a pilot last episode on the other podcast, and he was saying that, you know, we talk a lot about the pilot shortage, but the you know, the maintenance industry has an even greater issue going on with trying to fulfill slots. So I've been hearing that a lot myself. So you work with the NBAA on the maintenance committee?
I do. So I'm on the maintenance committee. I love to donate my time and help anywhere I can, and it's an awesome group of folks from all the big players in the industry, and we're all trying to do our part.
Awesome.
Yeah, so he was just over speaking to our students. I really appreciate your time. I don't know if I have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to kind of talk about?
I appreciate you having me on this.
Yeah. If you're an operator of Lears or
citations or challengers, we have maintenance slots for you. Or if you're an aircraft broker, we do a lot of pre-purchase inspections, and it's that time of year, so we're ready for it.
Give them a call. Jets MRO, located in South Dallas. So.
Awesome. And I guess that's about the end of it. Just last thing, what did you come for today again? You were speaking to the students at Thrust Institute of Maintenance.
I was sharing scholarship opportunities from NBAA, and so that was why I came today to talk to the students, answer questions, explain what business aviation is if they don't know, and just be a resource for them.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, thank you, John, for bringing Suresh through. I think this is a pretty cool one for our podcast, because we haven't had anyone who can speak about the industry on your level yet, not in my opinion, not at least from your perspective. John, if you have anything to close out with?
No, that's it. Thanks again, everybody, for listening on Nuts About Thrust. And like we always say, we do the little thumbs up. You know, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.